This is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. I have another exciting episode for you, and today's going to be one gardening episode like no other because this is Garden Ramblings with John. So, when I'm working in the garden, maybe when you guys are working in the garden too, maybe you guys might have the music in the background playing to kind of keep you motivated, keep you going. Sometimes I like to put, like a audio book on, learn about a subject that I'm interested in while I'm gardening, whether it's on the speakers or I have some headphones on. Or just sometimes I like to just relax, meditate, and work in the garden and think about things. So what I always want to encourage you guys to do is to multitask if you can. So, if you're into music, play some music. If you're into audiobooks, whether it's a fiction or nonfiction, hey, take some time to listen to some cool, useful stuff. Maybe even there's a way to put all my YouTube videos on iTunes so people can download them and listen to my episodes. I don't know how to do that. I know I could do it manually, but I want some automatic service to do that. I think that'd be really cool. So hey, if you know of a service that does that, hey, let me know. Actually, that'd be really cool. So the purpose of this episode is because today in the garden, I'm working in the front yard garden. It's totally overgrown and things are growing really well, but I'm doing a lot of weeding and some other things, and I have a lot of time to think. So I'm just going to share a few thoughts with you, while I'm in the garden, what I'm thinking about and some ideas that I'd like to share with you in the front yard garden. Now we're sitting in front of my chickweed, and this is some older, more mature chickweed. I have other chickweeds that are probably better for eating, but when the chickweed gets old and mature, guess what happens? It actually has some seeds, and it drops seeds, and you guys probably can't see on the video there, but the chickweed seeds are landing in the soil and also on the little wood ledge here. I got some right there. They're super tiny, and what'll happen is the seed will be planted in the ground, the rains will come, or my irrigation system will come on, it'll water the seed and start to grow. So literally the seed is the start of all plants. Also, what I want to encourage you guys to do every day is to plant a seed. And not the kind of seed in your garden, but the kind of seed in your mind. Say you roll out of bed and you trip when you get out of bed. And that's your seed to start your day out. What kind of day are you going to have if you got up on the wrong side of the bed? You'll be pissed off or upset. But what if you planted a seed like, today I'm going to have the best day ever. I'm going to make my day so full of joy and happiness. I'm going to greet everybody with a smile, because guess what? When you smile at somebody, 9 times out of 10, they're going to smile back at you, and it's going to make the world a happier place. So every day I want to encourage you guys to plant a new seed in your head, whether it's a seed to, I'm going to eat better today. I'm going to eat 1 extra apple a day. I'm going to, go to the gym today. I'm going to plant some plant starts today. I'm going to plant some seeds in my garden. I mean, whatever the seed is, I want you guys to have one seed that you plant in your head at the start of the day. Whatever it may be, whatever you want to do, but plant the seed, because without the seed, right, you're not going to grow a plant and you're not going to get the changes in life that you want to make. Now we're sitting next to one of my favorite plants in my garden that comes back year after year and is really easy to take care of. So that's actually a tip for gardening. If you're going to plant some greens, plant one of these guys. This is actually my Swiss chard here, and check this leaf out here. I mean, this is what the rock dust and growing in nutrient-dense soil will do. I mean, how many of you guys ever seen chard leaves this large? I could cover my whole face here. But this chard leaf is really big, and this is a symbol of, for you guys, that I want you guys to plan big and expect greatness. I mean, think about it. If this chard seed could think, and it had thoughts when it was a seed, and it said, okay, I'm going to get up to be 12 inches. 12 inches like long and, 4 inches wide. If it planned and knew it was only going to get that big, then it wouldn't strive to actually get larger. Good thing I'm feeding it nice, large soil, and it's not pre-programmed to grow a certain size, so it can grow as large as it wants to. And if I wouldn't have picked it, it'd probably even get larger. So I want you guys to, plan for greatness, plan for largeness, reach beyond your greatest expectations and plan big. At least you have a goal to get to, and if you plan too small, then, you're gonna limit yourself. So plan large and expect large. Now we're sitting in my herb bed, and what we're looking at here is some wild arugula. So the wild arugula is a different variety of arugula that's actually more hot and spicy, plus it's actually perennial. So what we did here was we cut it back, and it looks like it's actually reshooting from the same plant, and so it's growing back. So this is a good thing. Standard arugula won't necessarily do that. And here's some wild arugula we're gonna go ahead and taste. Woohoo! It's got a nice strong bite. Whoa, feel that burn afterwards, man. Wow, man, whoo, lit up my mouth there. So the reason for the wild arugula in this clip is to remind you to put some spice in your life. Whether that means you're going out with a Latina, they're a bit spicy, or eating some hot spicy food, or doing something else to spice up your life. I always encourage you to add spice to your life to keep it interesting. Now we're sitting next to my dinosaur kale plant. As you can see, my dinosaur kale, or black kale, Tuscan kale, is actually currently flowering. Here's some of the flowers, and soon it's gonna set some seed and reproduce. So what's the message for this one? Is to reproduce, damn it! It's fun. Actually, no, that's not the topic of this subject. So seriously, the reason for this clip is to actually, about the plant is participating in life, right? And I want you guys to participate in life. Many people might just sit in the couch all weekend and just watch the game, and drink some beer. Nothing wrong with drinking beer and watching the game once in a while, but in my opinion, far too many people do not participate in life. They let life pass them by. I want you guys to be active and participate in life, whether that means getting out and putting some gloves on and gardening, or going rollerblading, or doing some fun activity that you really enjoy, and don't just be stagnant and let life pass you by and be like this dinosaur kale plant, starting to flower and pretty soon set some seed and reproduce. So as you can see, I'm standing next to some of my favorite plants in the world. These guys are my purple tree collards, and they're rising like 8 feet up off the ground. They're quite tall, and they're perennials. And I want you guys to be perennials too, like nice, solid, and long-standing, right? A lot of the plants are annuals, so you got to plant them once and keep replanting them, but the perennials are just solid. So I want you guys to be solid in whatever you do in life, whether that's gardening. Make a commitment to gardening and stick with it. Be solid on it. Don't just be wishy-washy in life. And you're going to be able to grow like the tree collard and produce for a long time and have fun while you do it. One of the challenges I'm currently having in my garden is all the weeds. As you can see, there's all different kinds of weeds here, and these are not just all edible weeds. There's some actually undesirable, non-edible weeds that I'm going to extinguish. But if I told myself the story, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, and continue to trample up and down, pretending they're not there, right? They would actually the problem would get worse. And it's not gonna get better, because these guys are actually gonna go to seed, they're gonna drop seed, the seeds are gonna land in my raised beds besides just my pathways, and the problem is gonna get worse. So why is this important? Because I want you guys to stop telling yourself stories about things and take responsibility. In this day and age, I believe so many people always point the finger. It's their fault, it's their fault. No, you need to take responsibility for, your life. If there's something you don't like in your life, it's because either your thoughts or because, your actions, not necessarily somebody else on what they're doing. So how can this benefit you? Well, if you take responsibility and number one, apologize. If there's a problem, apologize. You apologize because you're taking responsibility for the problem that occurred, and then the next thing is to take care of the problem, to fix it. So I'm not going to say there's no weeds, and I'm not going to apologize to the weeds, but guess what? I'm just going to sit here, and I'm going to pull those damn weeds. So take responsibility and deal with them. But yet another weed in my garden are these guys right here. To many, this is a common weed. It's a dandelion. But I want you to look at weeds and other things in your life, with an open mind. And, one of the things I like to live by is that, for every situation in life, there's always something positive to come out of it. So, in the case of the dandelions here, right, dandelions are an incredible edible food. You can not only eat the leaves, and I like to pick them when they're young for salads because they're more tender. Otherwise, I like to put them in smoothies or juice them up. The leaves are nice and good. You could also eat the flowers, the stalks, and even the roots. So with all things, there's always a pro and a con. On the dandelion, it's a weed, man, it's going to spread. The pro, or the good thing about them, is that they're going to grow and you're going to have food like forever because they're going to take over the place. So always look for the good, even when times are bad, or even when you got some bad weeds. The next rambling from the garden I want to share with you guys is simply this. It's really simple. It's what I'm mixing up today. I'm mixing up some soil to pot up some transplants that I'm doing today. And every soil mix is always a little bit different. But what I really want you to remember from this is that, the key to your health, the planet's health, is all in the soil. Many people do not get this. Everything on Earth, everything alive on Earth comes from the soil, whether it's green plants that we feed cattle, whether it's, the wheat that the chickens eat, whether it's the food you eat, it all comes from the soil, and if the soil is demineralized and we're growing all this mineral-less plants, and then the whole food chain eats that, then we're in a heap of trouble. But when you mineralize your soil, you're going to get the minerals in your food, and you're going to be healthier, and consequently the planet will be healthier too. So remember, remineralize the earth for your health, but more importantly, planetary health. So we're at almost the end of the video here, and this is the final and most important tip that I'm going to share with you guys today. And if you guys like this video, hey, thumbs it up. Maybe I'll do one similar to this in the future. But the last tip I have for you guys today is this right here. As you can see, you're thinking, oh my gosh, John Kohler, one of his plants didn't make it. Well, you know what? Closeness counts in horseshoes and also in gardening. So as long as most of your plants make it, you're a success. And I like to look at gardening like I like to look at life. As long as you're a success most of the time, you are a success, because not every single time things are going to work for you. Not every single time your plant is going to live. Not every single time you'll be able to do this or do that. But you know what? As long as you succeed the majority of the time, and including gardening, you can do it. So hopefully with this episode, you'll have some tools for your gardening life, and also just life in general, so that you can start or continue to grow a successful garden, so you can eat out of your garden instead out of the supermarket. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.